Over the last 3 years I've done a series of videos covering the fenland drains with Catchmore Media. We've covered the 20 foot. Last year we did quite an in-depth look at bread fishing at March and a bit of hemp fishing. Because there is 3 sections of the Winter League final at March, we're going to do a peg by peg guide pretty much of the Old River Nene. And Andy Page, who we do Tales from the podcast, he's a keen pike angler and obviously does a bit of pike fishing, so we've borrowed his boat for the day, and so we're going to start the bypass bridge. So this, I'm not sure if it will be the end peg depending on how many sections are used, but if it is, this will be the end peg. It's a new peg really. As you can see, it's a bit of a nightmare to get in, but March in general is a nightmare. You're going to need a platform, set of waders to get in most of the pegs, but because it's an end peg, it is a good peg. These 2 or 3 pegs as we're coming up to here, again, the right end of the section, there's a lot worse pegs. It's mainly roach and perch fishing. There's not normally many skimmers this end of the length. Obviously boats, hemp line later on, fishing for a few roach, just pinging a bit of hemp over there. As we go around the bend here, these pegs that we're coming to here, especially this one here, just here on the right, not very good pegs to be honest. You'd be unlucky to draw that if it is in the Winter League final. Like I say, I'm not sure if they are coming as high up on the day because there's a few less teams fishing. So, but if it is in this sort of area here now, probably not the area to draw for good team points. It's, I wouldn't say it's weedy. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to throw up the weights like it does either end of the section. Again, platforms needed. It's a big thing on the drains now. 20 foot March, factory bank. Not so much Bennett because a lot of the platforms are, well, you have got platforms to fish from, but you will definitely need a decent platform. You can still see some of the pegs, the wooden stakes left in from last year's Winter League, so you can see where the pegs are. Middle level have done quite a bit of bank clearing this year. Quite a lot of the reeds. Obviously we've had a lot of rain this year, so the river had a good flush through, but it's quite snaggy again. Maybe when they was cleaning the bank, I'm sure a lot of the debris went in the river. So again, used to be a willow tree just as we've gone past on the far bank. That was a noted peg years ago. These are all good pegs in the summer, but in the winter you're just not going to compete with the town. It's there's just more fish. The nearer as we get to the town, the more fish there'll be. So yeah, I'll just go a little bit further along. This peg here, just coming up here with the white boat, is a boss peg for that section because there's a big gap. You'll see that this is the last peg for probably a good 100 or so yards. Towards the end of the season they do catch a few rudd here, so if you draw on them you could catch some £2. There's some lovely ones about. Obviously you've got all this room to draw fish from, which at March even an extra 10 yards makes a big difference to draw fish. So just carry on through here. I think, as you can see, I mean, a lot of people think March is pretty straight as it comes through the town, but there's actually a lot of bends and it weaves through the town, which from a boat you can see perfectly, but from the bank you don't realise it or appreciate it. Obviously this is the first peg now, so that's how big a gap these 2 pegs have got. Noted peg with the, I don't know what it is, it's some sort of frame, but it's a noted peg. These pegs are quite tight through here, but there's always a few fish. Again, roach, skimmers, maybe an odd rudd kicking about later on towards the end of the season. But I would say weight wise, come the final, obviously it depends on the weather. If it stays mild and wet and rainy, you're probably looking for 12 to 15 pound for good points. If it goes cold, you might be looking for 7 to 8 pound for good points. So it all depends on the weather really. Today we've got glorious sunshine. We've had the 3rd frosty morning in a row, and it's a beautiful day but really cold at night. So this peg here not this one, the next one just here as we're coming up to, that's an M peg because of this big turning bay. The only time that turning bay is pegged if we have a serious amount of rain, and it's obviously a slack peg for the fish to go to and an advantage for the angler drawing it. But in the summer, you see it just fish top there, probably a small rudd or something. But this area here is genuinely quite shallow, so it's not brilliant. Over the sort of last 2 years, this section has got better and better, and I don't know why. I think maybe more anglers fishing it has definitely helped. More bait going in spreads the fish about, and I just think there's more and more fish in these drains getting into March in general. These pegs here have been reasonable. Again, weights this year in our Winter League, there's been 25s, 27s all in these pegs, but for the Winter League final you're probably looking at 10 to 12 pound. I would have said it would be good points, just because of the angling pressure on leading up to the final. It does knock it back a bit. This peg here's got a little bit more room, obviously with the brambles. So if you get to your peg on the day and you think, oh, I've got a bit of room here, chances are it's a good peg because you've got more room. Don't know if we just see a kingfisher there. I don't know if we got that, did we? I'm not sure, but there's one thing I can guarantee: you will see a kingfisher if you draw at March. There's loads of them, loads and loads. I mean, these pegs here, this is what we call the start of the allotments, really. You tend to generally find these pegs in these rushes. There's normally a few perch about, not big perch, but lots of numbers of smaller perch. Obviously you need a platform, get towards the edge of the reeds, and it's deep close in here, so you tend to have your short line a little bit shorter than most of the sections. Just coming up here now, there's a tree that comes across the length. Now these few pegs here from the tree up to what we call as the willows has been the most consistent bit along here. There's always a few fish, always has been, even when it was a lot harder years ago. These pegs seem to throw up a few fish. Obviously the boats help. So this peg here is known as the bent willow tree peg. Catch skimmers through. You can catch an odd skimmer through here, especially when there's a bit of colour in the river. There's a swanlet. Come to follow this up the river, I think. And so this bit now, when people say the scout hut or guide hut, some people know it. This bit here, these pegs here are normally good roach pegs. Got a bit of depth. As you can see, you've got middle level waterman's yard, which used to be the old guide hut. Yeah, right. So now you've got what we call the willows section, where this white boat is. The middle level have done quite a bit of clearing. These willows used to hang right in the water and was quite snaggy, but they've actually done quite a good job, and generally the fish start to get a little bit bigger here. I don't know why, whether it's because you're getting nearer the town or what, but they definitely, the stamp increases. There's a few silver bream get through here, a few skimmers. There's kingfisher, look. Told you, I guarantee you one, didn't I? So these are what's known as the willows, just in the allotments. In the summer you get anglers come and pleasure fish. One thing I will say about March, there's a lot of pegs that are affected like this, where the general public can get close to the water, whether they're walking the dog, feeding the geese. So if you do come across something, it's best just to smile and not say anything back and just take it all in. So this peg now is a bit of a famous peg. This is the windmill peg. It tends to be a little bit deeper on the far bank, just on here. It gets fished quite a bit. Good hemp peg normally. Over the years, there's they used to catch big eels and all sorts out of these pegs. They really are nice. So, plus it's got a little bit of room as well. This is a big gap by March standards, so you got more fish to draw from. Yeah. yeah, so as we're going round now, tend to go just towards where the allotment style is, or used to be. Over the back here is where the allotments used to be. Now it's more like a skate park, but you still park in the same places, park at Oxbow or in the council yard, which was the allotments car park. So these pegs tend to shallow up on the far bank here. I don't know why. You'd think they'd be quite deep, but they are quite shallow. You've got a lot of depth on the inside. I think maybe when the boats come round, they tend to go on the near side. So we're just coming up to what is the end of the allotments this way. In the distance you can see the boat there. There's someone fishing. We'll wave at him when we go past. Hopefully he won't destroy his day's fishing. But these pegs here, they're okay. Just past this culvert here, the next 2 or 3 are quite consistent, especially the one opposite the boat. It's a new peg that's been cut in, and it throws up a lot of skimmers and little silver bream. They tend to be there for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe it's something to do with where the river narrows and then widens out. Maybe the skimmers either want to be in the flow or out of the flow, I'm not too sure. But oh look, he's even caught one on cue for the camera, has he? Yeah, there we are, look. Perfect. So this here now, look, is what they call the style peg. As you can see, it's the first peg as it comes in here. Generally they sit on top of the bank there, but some of them do get in the water. I'd probably sit from the top, but yeah. So this is the peg that Sean Aspey's won his section off the last 2 weeks on the trot, a 19 and a 20 pound. So it's a nice peg. I think you've got a bit of depth over. So yeah, here's Mr. Easter. All right, mate. You having a good day? Good. You don't catch on them, do you? I bet you did. I did. Yeah. Is that your rig there? Look. Yeah. Told you it's snaggy. Right. These pegs are awful to get in. Really are bad. You can see how steep the bank is. And it's just a mud pit, absolute mud pit. The fish tend to go a little bit smaller here, lots of little rudd. There's a peg here with some reeds, well, what's left of them anyway. There's normally a boatload of little rudd, which some days you have to catch and some days you try and avoid them big time. So yeah, it's pretty consistent through there. As you can see, we're coming up to what's known as the Health Centre Bridge, which is a famous area. Normally, years ago, the pegs nearer the bridge, the better. The 2 pegs this side of the bridge are the best 2 now. The one below it isn't as good. There used to be like a tree overhang, and I think that held a few fish. Now it's just a boat launch. Yeah, that's a lovely mud pit peg. Look, that one, beautiful. So yeah, this can be a really good peg. And we've got the usual rat that you'll see as well, kingfishers and rats. You'll definitely see them when you visit March. Just going through the turning bay, or what's left of it anyway. Yeah, I think it's fallen or sunken in by the looks of that. Not ideal. Now these 2 pegs here, as you can see, it does narrow up quite a bit here. So when there's less flow, just that little bit extra pace does push a few skimmers and roach through here. You've got a lot of depth down here, obviously, because it's narrower. So you can see we're coming to a bend, so the flow does tend to hit that near side there and come round. Just going under what's known as the Health Centre Bridge, or West End. You've got the park over here. You can park in at Oxbow. So these will definitely be in. This will be B section, so be in the first half of B. You've got probably about 11 pegs or 12 pegs from here to the swimming pool section pegs. Again, a little bit wider here. There's not so much depth across. Might be worth taking a little waggler rod with you here when the fish do back off, because it is sort of 14.5, 16 metres to reach the boats, and that's a lot of shipping, and you can catch them just as quick, if not faster, on a little waggler. So might be worth setting one of those up. This peg in particular is really shallow. The willow tree used to come right out, so the boats used to go round it, and gradually this is all silted up here, and it is literally that deep. You would never think it, but it is. It's really shallow here. So these pegs now are starting to get to the boss pegs. Any of these you'd be happy with in a March Open. There's basically from here now, this is known as the slipway peg, where the boats come in. Let's go a bit further along. Yeah. So we've got slipway here, and then as the flow sort of comes down, the flow does go round the bend and hits these boats. And these are all brilliant hemp pegs, bread and hemp pegs. You could probably start short on bread here and get away with it, you know, or ground bait and pinky. But the fish just get bigger and bigger as we get nearer the town. They really do. Again, they're mud pit pegs, but they're full of fish. They are full of fish. This particular peg is a very, very good peg, known as the Bandstand Peg, or where the steps come down. There's a big gap here because you can see how steep the bank is. There's no pegs been cut in, but as a theme as we go along, the pegs with the more room will produce more fish. A few skimmers, normally some pommies or silver bream, loads of roach. But it's a shame there ain't pegs in here really, because it'd be ideal. This area here, I think in the next few years, the Environment Agency and the local March Club and Council are looking to put some platforms in, and it's perfect access really for because of the parking. You can park behind the swimming pool, it's free parking. Just come over the bank. Once you get in with a platform, it's quite comfortable. But this is known as the stump peg. As you could probably just gone past, there's a stump that used to come right out in the water. So that is the stump peg, which is the first one behind the swimming pool. This is another fantastic peg. Let's go past these boats. Right, so just coming up to the concrete, this peg holds the March record, or the Old Nene record, which was broken this year by Steve Winters. He had 60 pounds of skimmers and roach from this peg here. It gets pleasure fished all the time. He caught that, would be November time, and colossal weight, fantastic weight of skimmers. So if that is in, I'm not sure if it will be, because sometimes this boat's moored up, especially here as well. These are all really good pegs here. Skimmers and roach all the way through. Quite snaggy though, that's the only thing. There's a lot of debris from the trees and stuff. So now we're coming up to the town bridge. Obviously this is normally the end peg. As you can see, this used to be a mill here. That's why this area in town is known as Mill View, or Mill. I bet this holds some fish in the winter, but obviously we can't fish here. But another fish top there, look. So this is the Clocktower Stretch. It's won 2 opens already this year. The last 2. This particular area of the Clocktower Stretch isn't particularly very good. It's the narrowest part of the river here. It's yeah, it's a bit awkward getting down, but this ain't in the Winter League final. But for those that fish the March Opens, it's a really good area to draw certain times of the year. Lee Wright won the Christmas Open from this peg here. £27. As the flow comes around, there was some boats there, and it left all slack water on the far bank, and that's where the fish want to be. So as we come up here, this is what's known as Pig Market Corner. There's 2 pegs normally in the March Opens. All this is left out because of obviously getting down to the bank. There's nowhere to sit. Years ago they did used to peg that, but they don't anymore. This peg here is a really, really good peg. It's probably won more March Opens than most of them. The flow comes down on the inside and goes round and leaves a shallow bank up here. So yeah, or used to be known as the Bolty House Corner. Used to be Bolty House there, and then across here used to be the old pig market. So this next bit we're coming up to is Nene Parade. That's not fished anymore. There's no room for pegs. There's people's gardens and boats all the way through. We're just coming through Nene Parade here. I have a lot of anglers that have fished March over the years or have heard about March. Nene Parade was a really famous section. All the framing weights used to come from Nene Parade, especially these pegs here. Used to be really, really, really productive. So we're just coming to Wigston's Bridge, which is A section. Hi mate, you right? The first peg, which is tucked away just behind here, that will be A25, and that is an absolute dolly hole. Obviously you're drawing fish from Nene Parade, so you've got a never-ending supply of fish really. But when we come to, as you'll see, it is an absolute nightmare to get down to. Just come round here. So from here to the Green Bridge, which is Wigston's, there'll be 5 pegs, I would have thought, 5 or 6 normally. There's so many roach here, it's mad. There's a few skimmers about. Tend to catch more skimmers on the culvert peg, or they're more silver bream than they are skimmers. And the good thing about these pegs is they're narrow, but with these boats, if it does flow hard, especially with the weather we've had this year, you can get in some slack water and catch some fish. So we'll just come round here. Quite snaggy as well. I think the fact that people throw stuff in the river, there's all sorts of shopping trolleys and traffic cones. The middle level do their best to take them out, but they always end up back in. So in the last March Open, that peg there framed with £26, £25 here on the bridge. As you can see, it goes to quite a sweeping bend, and the boat in the distance is what we call as hemp boat, because it's won quite a lot of money over the years, that peg. The flow's tight to it, it's nice depth, it's just perfect for roach. Just going under Wigston's Bridge. So this is a new peg that's been cut in this year. Another good peg, bit of room. You're probably looking for, I would say, £15 to £18 through these pegs come the final. If it is colder, probably £12 to £15, but there's so many fish through here, it's mad, absolutely mad how many fish are through here. So this is the famous hemp peg. I don't know if we see any hemp damage on the boat, but there's been plenty of hemp fed up against that, I can assure you of that. So this now is known as the disabled pegs. Recently during March Open I had a nice day's fishing, but you struggle to beat the pegs the nearer you get towards Wigston's, and your section normally goes that way. So I would say come the final, somewhere through here will be the end of the first half of A and the start of the second. The peg in between, so the pegs are fairly tight, but there's plenty of fish to go at. As the river bends round, this is what's known as the Narrows. Not particularly brilliant this year because of the amount of rain we've had. It's been proper tramming through there. it makes the presentation really difficult, but it's nevertheless, there's quite a lot of skimmers get through there. Like today the river stood still or backing up, not doing anything, and when it does that, these pegs can be quite good because there is more flow. It's exaggerated because it's narrower. But all these through here are all really good hem pegs. So we're just coming, this is like the proper narrows now, what is known as. Just round this bend, you've got reeds on the far bank. Sometimes towards the end of the season they can catch a few rudd. Has been known, not big bags, but there's always an odd sort of 6-8 ouncer in between. Again, these sections come Winter League final, 10 to 12 pound will be a good weight, I would have thought. If it is cold, you can take £4 off that probably. There used to be a few boats through here which helped, but they've gone now, and I think boats definitely make a massive difference on March. If you've got a boat in your peg, there's so many fish get behind it or underneath it. You're onto a winner if you've got a boat in your swim. Right, so these will probably be pegs 10, 11, something like that. Just on this bend here, it widens right out, and they're good skimmer pegs. Some days they're full of lots of small roach and you can't catch any skimmers, and then other days they're full of like 10, 12, 14 ounce skimmers, which you can soon put a weight together. I've seen an odd open one from these pegs, but it can either be really good or it can be a tough bit in the section. As we go down towards peg 1, it's hard to beat those pegs, it really is. There's more cover, as you can see there's some boats appearing, it's thick sort of brambles on the inside and far bank, it just holds more fish, but like, as you can see it's a lot wider here, the pace tends to drop out, and normally a few skimmers when it does run, these can be really good. So yeah. In the distance now you can see the old railway coal yard Black Bridge, which is where we used to peg right up to in the March matches, but this is probably about peg 5, so you can see how many pegs we have lost over the years. When you think March used to be 130 peg sellout, Christmas Open, and now there's only 100 pegs, we've lost a lot of pegs. Again, through here, smaller fish, but there's normally a few skimmers which can sort of bump your weight up. Another kingfisher, no. Yeah, another kingfisher. So this is peg 3. They're a little bit tight through here, but there's plenty of fish. And then we're just coming up to where we did the video last year. Here is peg 1. So we've given a pretty much peg by peg guide of the Old River Nene and the Winter League final.